Okay. You can start.
Okay. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Directors of the State Agriculture State of Hawaii, Department of Agriculture. Sorry about that. I'm the chair, Sharon Hurd. Prior to calling the meeting to order, I'll ask Stephen Dalton to explain how the public can participate in this hybrid meeting.
Good morning, everyone. As an attendee, your microphone will be automatically muted during the meeting unless you're providing testimony. For each agenda item you wish to testify on, please click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. Board staff will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking in order to prevent audio feedback. When testifying, you'll be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item. And if there are any members of the public joining via phone, when the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering pound and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering pound and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing pound and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter pound and then 6 again to mute yourself. In the event that connectivity is lost and attempts to repair the connection exceed 30 minutes, the meeting may be terminated or continued to another date and time. Consult the webpage for updated information. Thanks.
Testifiers are reminded that there is a 2-minute limit of testimony per agenda item. Calling the meeting to order at 9:10 in the morning. Roll call vote. I'm going to be taking a roll call of the members that are present. When your name is called, please indicate your presence and whether or not you are alone. Over the age of 18, name the people over the age of 18 that is present in the room with you. This will also serve as the roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. So Sharon Hurd, present. Russell Suji, are you on? Oh, there you are.
Yes, present, and I'm alone.
Dr. Anya Wieczorek. Excuse. Mary Alice Evans.
Present and alone.
Diane Lee.
Present and alone.
Vincent Nina. Vincent.
And I don't know if
Vincent is
effective
joining
this is
us.
going to be.
Okay, were you alone, Vincent?
Can you?
We'll mark him present. Fred Cowell.
Very present and very alone.
Randy Cabral.
Good morning, present and alone.
And Young.
Morning, present and alone.
And James Gomes.
Aloha kakahiaka, present and alone.
Okay, we have quorum and the meeting will continue with the approval of the minutes. Board of Directors meeting May 23rd, 2023. May I have a motion to approve the May 23rd, 2023 minutes?
And so moved, Jimmy.
Second,
Second.
thank you, Mary. Second by Mary, presentation by staff, if any.
No.
No?
This one.
Okay. So minutes are approved.
You would have voted. Any adjustments?
Okay, sorry about that. May I have calling for the vote? Any objections? Hearing none, minutes are approved as presented. Thank you. So we have the, okay, so we have the first item here. The, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, item 1A. A1. We'll be deferring item A1 at the request of the applicants, but we will be taking public testimony on item A1. Should somebody read it?
And Karen.
Okay, let me just, for the publics, I'm going to read the item A1, which is put forward by the Agriculture Resource Management Division. It is the request for approval of the transfer of public lands from the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Department of Agriculture pursuant to Act 90 SLH 2003, codified as Chapter 166E Hawaii Revised Statutes, TMK numbers 398001003, 6 and 13, 396011002, and 398001011, and 12, 398001009 and 10, 344-014-002, 003, and 011, Island of Hawaii. The applicants have asked to defer. Any public comments?
I see none online.
Okay, so we will defer till the next meeting when the board will have a chance to enter testimony. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 2. May I have a motion to, sorry about that. Hi, Roy.
Morning, Chairperson, members of the board. Roy Hasegawa, Department Ag Resource Management Division, and I'll be presenting the request for approval to award leases to various awardees and backup positions. These are for the islands of Oahu and Hawaii.
May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Thank you, Fred.
That's it. Finish that.
May I have a second?
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you. Presentation.
The Agricultural Resource Management Division received the Paneva Agriculture Park, the Poho Agriculture Park from the Department of Land and Natural Resources via Governor's Executive Orders 3378 and 3380 respectively in 1988. The Ag Resource Management Division received the Waimanalo Agriculture Park from DLNR via Governor's Executive Order 3464 in 1990. In accordance with 166-6 and 7 Hawaii Revised Statutes and 415322 Hawaii Administrative Rules, a public notice of disposition was published on February 3rd, 2023, making available for lease 12 parcels. The division received a total of 13 applications for the vacant parcels, of which 8 applicants qualified to submit bid proposals in accordance with the rules. Pursuant to 41531 and 13 Hawaii Administrative Rules, staff has determined that each applicant qualifies as a bona fide farmer with more than 2 years of farming experience and meets eligibility residency requirements of the Agricultural Park Program. 6 applicants submitted bids for the parcels. 2 applicants bid on multiple parcels, and 2 applicants did not submit a bid. Exhibit A lists the applicants, their status and respective bids, and Exhibit B reflects the locations of the parcels. In addition to the highest bid proposal, staff identified 2 backup bid proposals for the Waimanalo Agricultural Park Lot 14 and 1 backup proposal for the Paneva Agricultural Park Lot 7. At its meeting held on May 27, 2014, the Board of Agriculture approved that staff may identify backup bid proposals. There were no bids received for the Poho Agriculture Park lots 1, 2, 12, 13, 15, 18, and 20. Therefore, staff will retain these vacant parcels until the next notice of lease dispositions.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah. Staff recommends the issuance of appropriate right of entry document to the successful bidders for the lots in accordance with 415319 Hawaii Administrative Rules and issue appropriate general leases. And the backup bid proposals as alternate in the event that the highest bidders fail to complete the lease prerequisites. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy, again. How does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, board discussion? Hey, Jimmy. Recognizing Jimmy Gomes.
Okay, there were no bids for 7 lots. What's the reason no one bid on it? And the other thing, I would like to get pictures again, colored pictures of these lots. But I'm just curious why no one bid on those 7. Is something wrong with the lots or can you tell me a little bit about it?
Excuse me. So thank you for the question, Jimmy Gomes. The lots are in the Pahoa Ag Park, which the Ag Park is one of the roughest places. There's a lot of lava, difficult to grow things, and I'm not sure which lava flow it was, but it came pretty close to overrunning the Ag Park. So it's not a real popular or productive place for agriculture right now. Although, I guess farmers, experienced bona fide farmers can recognize when there's potential in some of the lots there. So we have been able to lease out some of the lots, and the lease rents are very, very reasonable there for all of those reasons. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat, but again, if they're not usable for farming, why even put it on a bid list? Unless.
Well, I'm sorry, like
No,
I
go
said, yeah. What is that? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Sometimes, like last time, we've been putting all these lots out for lease several times, and each time actually we've gotten like one more lease and one more lease. So that's why we keep putting them out there, because it may get leased in the future. Like I said, someone might see the potential in one of the lots.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
And Jimmy, recognizing your request for color pictures next time. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Mary Alice. and then-
Mary Alice?
Thank you. Linda, what is the water source for the Pahoa Ag Park lessees?
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I don't have the answer to that question. Our Hawaii Island property manager is not on this call. I think she's out site visits today. We can certainly find out and let you know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Recognizing Vince Mina?
Thank you, Chair. I'm hearing every other sentence, half a sentences. So I want to request I can shut off my video to see if I can better my bandwidth here. Hopefully it'll get better. I'm on a moving vessel, so it may not work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, Vincent, but although the public can shut off their video, the board members have to be seen.
Okay,
So-
well, I'll just hang in there as long as I can, but it's not tenable to understand what people are saying for me on this end. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Recognize, wasn't there another hand up?
Yeah, but she took it down.
Oh, Diane? You chickened up, okay, fine,
I think you
Uh,
covered the points I was gonna ask about.
okay. Thank you very
Oh,
much. Any,
well, actually, since I have the floor, maybe Roy or Linda could address, if they know how many applicants, were for the Waimanalo parcels. I think the point being is, there's always complaints about not, ag lots not being available, and then when they do come up, and there's trade-offs on all lots, so just wondering if we know how many applicants for Waimanalo.
Yes, go ahead. Isn't it on the chart?
There were 4 qualified for Waimanalo and a total of 6, I believe, applicants.
Thank you, appreciate that.
any other further board discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved by unanimous vote. Thank you. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Linda. Moving on to item A3.
Good morning. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself previously. My name is Linda Marai. I'm a property manager with the Ag Resource Management Division. Our next request is for conversion of general lease number 5658 and general lease number S5168 to Akamai Landscape and Maintenance Service, Inc. is the lessee. This is located at the Waimanalo farm lots on the island of Oahu. General lease number 5658 and 5168 were awarded by the Board of Land and Natural Resources to Akamai Landscape. In 2008, the leases were transferred to the Department of Agriculture. The lessee has requested a conversion of the leases in accordance with section 4-158-8 Hawaii Administrative Rules to long-term leases of 35 years for the initial lease terms for both leases. An appraisal will be ordered pursuant to section 4-158-21 Hawaii Administrative Rules for the purpose of determining the fair market rental, for the parcels. The new appraised annual rental shall be set for the first 15 years of the new term versus 1.5% of gross sales, whichever is greater. Additionally, the lessee will pay a premium equal to 25% of the rental for the new lease for a period of 7 years. Further, the board and lessee mutually agreed to cancel the existing leases by executing a mutual cancellation of lease. Since the mutual cancellation of lease is agreed upon and executed by the parties and is not due to breach or default of the lessee is eligible and qualified for the new general lease. Our recommendation is that the Board of Agriculture approve lessee's request to convert general lease number S5658 and general lease number S5168 to new non-agricultural parklands leases of 35 years for the initial lease terms. And to approve the mutual cancellation of general lease number S5658 and general lease number 5168. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Thanks, Mary.
Second, Jimmy.
Okay. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no
Linda.
hands raised at this time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Discussion by the board?
I have a question, Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy.
Why didn't this lease Akamai come up for long-term disposition earlier? Apparently, it looked like they had this lease from 2008.
For conversion, the rule is that towards the lease cannot be less than 5 years or more than 10 years from its expiration date. During that period, the lessee can request for the conversion of lease. So it's a rule in our Hawaii administrative rules.
Thank you.
Further discussion by the board? Mary Alice.
Following up on Jimmy's question, does this apply only to conversion of DLNR leases to new DOA leases, or is this something that is the rules apply to all new leases or all extensions?
This rule is in our 4-158 rules, and this applies to non-agricultural parklands leases and lands that were transferred from DLNR for Act 90. Does that answer your question?
It does, but it doesn't explain why. That you have to
Oh.
wait until that window on an existing lease from DLNR to convert. Why the window as opposed to as soon as it comes over, it is eligible for conversion?
I really can't speak to as to why the rules were written that way, the rationale for that. However, I can only speak to what's written in the rules, and we have to follow the rules.
Okay, were the rules adopted? How far back were those rules adopted or amended to provide this language? Any guess?
That's a really good question. I didn't I should know this, but I'm sorry, Mary Alice. I can certainly send you a copy of the rules, and it does say on the rules themselves when they were adopted. For non-ag park, I'm gonna have to say, the Act 90 came into effect in 2008. So I'm gonna say it would have to have been at least by or before 2008 for a non-ag park.
Okay, well, thank you for, it still doesn't explain it, but I understand that, that happened a while ago. And so the rationale for it may not be easy to find. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mary Alice. And Vincent? Mina? Hey Vince, you're kind of frozen right now.
If I
We're going to, Vincent, we know your situation and unfortunately we can see you, but we can't hear you. We're going to move on.
You stay in Italy.
Yeah, so, any other comments from the board? Any other board discussion on this matter?
Chair, I have a question.
Thank you, Jimmy. Go ahead.
No, staff has given us some colored pictures of this property. But does this whole acreage look like those pictures, exactly what we see, or is there vacant land, or what is it? Does it all look?
Yes, the Akamai landscape is 100% developed. They are very, I would say, successful in their business, and they take their business very seriously. And so they really, they are 100% developed. They're in the business to make money.
Great, thank you.
Oh, Ann, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Generally, I'm in support. So just some questions on, okay, so on the conversion, so for S5168, that was 1998, which was 25 years, and then they're in an initial lease term for 35, and then they would be eligible for
An additional 30 years, yes.
or
extension.
65. So on the conversion leases, they could go over the 65-year max. That's correct.
I don't quite over the 50, you mean the existing leases?
Yeah.
He's saying if you add the deal in RVs plus the extension plus the additional 30 years, does that add up to more than 65?
This is not an extension. If I'm understanding the question correctly, this is not an extension of the lease, it's a conversion to a brand new.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Okay,
I understand that part, and I support that because, I know that deal in our leases are constructed a little differently from DOA. So good to kind of get them under our rules. So just trying to look at kind of like what's the total term that that they'd be eligible for.
On the new lease?
Total.
Just in total, right? So if you have somebody that's converting, they have two leases, right? So
Okay,
person
so,
converting
so the
2,000
rule,
to-
because, I'm sorry. So
No, go ahead,
because,
Linda.
yeah, because we're giving them, or they are receiving a brand new lease, then the rules say that a lease, the maximum term for a lease is 65 years.
Mhm.
So this new lease, they'll be eligible for a maximum term of 65 years, since it's a brand new lease.
Yeah.
According to the rules.
Okay, yeah, so I was just trying to make sure we're not running afoul, it's 65
Oh,
years.
right, right. No, I
or-
understand. So the initial lease, these current leases, they are not more than 65 years, right? And so, it's like taking a whole brand new lease and applying the rules to a brand new lease. So they will be in compliance. We will be in compliance.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay?
I understand that part. It
understand your
sounds,
concern. I understand.
yeah, it just sounds a little advantageous for the conversion guys.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead. Randy, go ahead.
Linda, I just want to clarify. Is it in statute that the maximum is 65? I thought that you could go beyond 65, that there was really no limit.
Oh, no, definitely there's a limit in the HAR. 65 years is the maximum term. So if a lessee, for whatever reason,
There's a provision.
came to the 65-year mark on these current leases and they didn't ask for a conversion, then they would expire and they would be terminated and the land would come back to the state.
Clarify. So if I have a 65-year lease,
Mhm.
I'm coming up to the expiration date, can I apply for a new lease?
Under 4-158, the non-ag park rules, the window of opportunity, I call it, to apply for a brand new lease for conversion, subject to 4-158-8, is that 5-year window with the expiration date at the end and not more than 10 years left on the lease and not less than 5 years left on the lease. And like I said previously, I'm not sure what the rationale for setting those time limits were when they made the rules, but that's what's in the rules. There's a 5-year window of opportunity to let staff know whether or not they want to convert their expiring leases, soon to be expiring leases, to brand new converted brand new leases. So
Randy, that is the rule as it stands today during this board meeting. On the governor's desk is the bill that I think you might be referring to that limits, that excludes Oahu and limits the ag lease extensions to populations of less than.
can I comment
Yes,
on
yes,
that?
please.
So that bill applies to ag park lands only, and that's 4-153. So it applies to a different program.
Yes, stand corrected. Our subject matter expert has corrected it. So, but there is a bill that you might be thinking of, Randy. I'm sorry to, put my thoughts in your head, but I was thinking of that. And if the governor signs it, it does allow for a further extension beyond 65 years.
Yeah, I understand that ag park one, but this is non-ag park, so I'm still kind of confused. Linda, if they have a 65 and they're within the window to ask for another one, they could get an additional 65. So they can actually get more than 65 if they apply for a new one.
My understanding is that they will be converting to a brand new lease. You know what I mean? With a different number, a different lease number. And so the rules, Hawaii administrative rules will apply to that brand new lease separately from the old lease.
Can I interject?
Yes, Brian, you please jump in.
Because what I think we're confusing is the difference between the DLNR lease and the DOA lease. DOA can issue a lease a total of not longer than 65 years. So put aside however long they had it with DLNR. They come to DOA. At some point, their lease gets converted. That the total period of time the DOA can give for a lease is 65 years. At the end of the 65, and that's the 35 plus 30, right? At the end of that 65-year period, there is no further extension under the law. There is, and the land would have to be put out for bid. So they don't get to extend it, but they of course could bid again. I'm not sure we've come across that yet,
Not yet.
but I mean, at some point, maybe we could.
Yeah.
And
So in effect,
again, unless the law changes.
so in effect, the DLNR lease that initially came over, which is a non-ag park lease,
Yeah.
you can go into the 45th year, 55th year, and then get another convert that lease into a DOA lease for another whole 65 years, extending the tenancy of the occupant to a century. And that's what the rules allow. Yeah. And basically the difference between DLNR and DOA is DLNR is considered the non-ag park, DOA is considered ag park leases.
Hold on.
Okay, they're still not ag park leases. but-
No, they're not.
Thanks for the clarification, Brian. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any further board discussion? Seeing and hearing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you, Linda.
I'm sorry.
Sharon, excuse me, this is Jan. Vince had to log off. His connection was bad.
Yeah, he was on a boat in the middle of
Yeah.
the ocean. So thank you for that, Jen.
Okay.
We still have quorum, so we will continue. Item A5,
Okay, again, this is a resubmittal. This is,
I'm sorry,
8-4.
A4, excuse me.
okay. This is a request and it's a resubmittal for consent to amend general lease number 3138. Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC is the lessee located in Ewa on the island of Oahu. The lease was awarded by direct negotiations to Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC commencing January 1st, 2020 for diversified agriculture, which included the feedlot use. The feedlot parcel supports the harvest facility, which is located adjacent to the feedlot and is also crucial for water allocation purposes. The harvest facility is the only USDA certified facility on Oahu. Hawaii Land and Livestock is requesting an amendment to paragraph 7 of the lease to provide an additional 3 years to complete development of the parcel to a revised plan of utilization to be approved by the Department of Agriculture. Approximately 2 months after the lease was executed, the negative impacts of COVID-19 drastically altered life activities worldwide. In the state of Hawaii, federal and state government restrictions and regulations forced the closures of schools, restaurants, retail stores, other businesses, and establishments. These new government restrictions severely impacted businesses and forced owners to redirect their priorities to remain profitable. Many of the businesses who survived the several years of the pandemic eventually shut down or used, used alternative business practices that aided in their financial survival. Since the lease commencement date of January 1st, 2020, Hawaii Land and Livestock also has had to pivot and find resourceful ways to continue business endeavors to remain viable as a business entity. HLL encountered the following obstacles that have impeded their efforts in the development of the feedlot in accordance with their current lease agreement. First, number one, due to the impact of COVID pandemic government restrictions, HLL had to redirect and reorganize business priorities away from the feedlot and postpone its development schedule. All HLL finances and efforts were then focused on one, increasing the harvesting and processing operations located on the adjacent harvest facility lot under general lease number S8500 to benefit the public need for food, and two, keeping its employees safe. HLL believed that the development of its new project, the feedlot, was not wise with all the uncertainty in the marketplace at the time. Ramping up the harvest facility operations were essential to the public food supply and supporting the ranching community in Hawaii. The Hawaii cattle industry, with guidance from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council, requested that HLL focus on the expansion of the harvest and processing build-out area. During this pandemic period, the community voiced concerns on the shortage of critical food supply chains, and it was imperative that Hawaii food producers needed to get local products out to the community due to the high dependence of imported food products. The harvest facility doubled its harvest numbers to feed the public and help maintain income for the ranchers of the Hawaii cattle industry. Two, COVID-19 government restrictions on transportation and shipping limited the amount of available cattle feed to support a feeding operation for cattle. Hawaii is heavily dependent on imported livestock feed for its animals. Additionally, these restrictions halted the shipment of calves to the mainland, which ranchers depend on as a primary source of income, therefore increasing the need for local slaughter of the mature animals. Due to these restrictions, HLL prioritized local slaughter initiatives to ensure the livelihood of the cattle industry. And three, when HLL was informed of DLNR's interest in developing an agreement with a solar energy company to lease portions of the feedlot, HLL cautiously halted development in fears that the lease would be canceled. During this initial process, HLL has informed the DOA, has informed us about the various obstacles that delayed the development of the feedlot. In 2022, HLL felt confident to move forward with developing the feedlot and revised plans to bring the property back to prosperous agricultural site. HLL had the property surveyed and commenced with clearing the premises of invasive vegetation, abandoned derelict vehicles and heavy equipment, rusting metal from previous feedlot use, and various other debris that had accumulated during its many years of remaining vacant. Approximately 60% of the premises has been cleared. HLL has submitted an updated plan of utilization and development to utilize the premises more efficiently for various agricultural activities, taking into considerations lessons learned as a result of the COVID-19 public health crisis. During the COVID-19 public health crisis, the harvest facility significantly increased its output capacity to meet the demand for local products. This increased activity by the harvest facility impacted and required revisions to the planned use for the feedlot. It was calculated that portions of the entire 110 acres could be used for agricultural activities other than feedlot purposes. Consequently, HLL has submitted a revised PUD. In addition to cattle holding corrals, alternative agricultural activities will be developed to include farming of feed for livestock and development of a hog harvesting facility to assist the struggling hog industry in Hawaii. Should the hog harvesting facility not receive adequate support, however, the backup plan is to expand the farming of feedstock feed areas, livestock feed areas. The proposed activities of farming feed for livestock and development of the hog harvesting facility would both be documented through subleases, subject to approval by the Board of Agriculture in separate submittals and subject to approval of this request to amend the lease. Any change in use may not violate DLNR's right to utilize the parcel for solar power. The COVID-19 pandemic has severely impacted businesses in Hawaii, resulting in setbacks and requiring revisions to operations to survive and move forward towards success. HLL has had to reorganize and redirect the focus of its business operations, resulting in delays related to development of the feedlot as originally planned. Staff believes there have been reasons for delay in development outside the control of HLL, and HLL has made good faith efforts to begin development, and that HLL has a practical plan to complete development within a reasonable period. Since commencement of the lease, routine site visits to monitor lease compliance issues were performed. On August 5th, 2020, a written request from Hawaii Land and Livestock was received to allow a portion of the premises on which to keep trucks, equipment, tools, and parts needed to support the harvesting facility operations and ongoing renovations by the operator, American Hauling. This request is consistent with commercial agricultural businesses that require such support for their operations. Even DOA's smaller agricultural businesses of 3 to 10 to 15 acres have at least one or more heavy equipment vehicles and trucks on their lots to support their operations. DOA issued a conditional letter of approval dated September 17, 2020 for such use, reserving the right to demand that the boneyard, which is what the area is called, to be removed from the premises. On February 11, 2022, a site visit was performed during which staff noted the operator had abused the agreement as the boneyard area had expanded beyond the originally agreed upon area, and staff issued a written warning to HHL to reduce the equipment and materials stored at the boneyard. Monthly site visits by staff revealed minimal reduction of the area, and DOA issued written demand to HLL to remove the boneyard completely. HLL immediately issued written notice to the boneyard operator to vacate the premises. As of April 1st, 2023, since the operator had not vacated the premises, HLL filed a legal complaint for ejectment and damages to the operator. HLL has made its best efforts by promptly, consistently, and appropriately responding to compliance issues raised by the lessor. Therefore, staff is comfortable recommending that the board approve amending the lease as requested. Our recommendation is that the Board of Agriculture approve amending general lease number 3138, Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC as a lessee, paragraph 7, utilization and development of the demised premises due to extenuating circumstances that prevented the lessee from performing in accordance with the original lease provisions as follows. So the revised paragraph 7 reads, utilization and development of the demised premises. The development of the demised premises shall be completed within 6 years from the commencement date of this lease in accordance with the plan of utilization and development and schedule therein, which shall be prepared by the lessee and approved by the Department of Agriculture before the execution of this lease. Any modification or deviation from the plan or the schedule without the prior written approval of the Department of Agriculture may constitute a breach of this lease and cause for termination thereof. Agricultural activity modifications and deviations from the plan may be made by the lessee, provided that such modifications and deviations are within the definition of diversified agriculture and in compliance with the provisions of the lease. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. May I have a second?
Seconded by Fred.
Brad, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
There are no hands raised from the public at this time. There's some from online.
Oh, from the public. We're gonna call David Wong up.
Yeah.
Morning, my name is David Wong. I appear before you and the board, representing Mr. David Souza from Island Farms, Stacy Sugai and Betsy Conashiro from Two Ladies Farms, and myself. First, we want to thank the board and the Department of Agriculture for having the vision and supporting the rebuild of the local hog production. You blessed us with funds to start construction of the modular slaughter unit. So Mr. Souza and Stacy Sugai flew to the mainland and negotiated with the contractor to make major modifications in the standard modular slaughter unit that he builds, so we can totally comply with Hawaii's environment and third-party audits, which is a major limit to expansion of production locally. We were blessed with the legislature providing funds to do the off-site, on-site, and accessory funding to comply with the modular slaughter unit when it arrives. And we've been working with Mr. Bobby Farias for a site, and he has agreed to allow us 5 acres on his site. So all the pieces are coming together, and we want to thank the board and the department for helping rebuild the hog production and achieve sustainability in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any further public discussion?
We do have a hand raised from online. I'd like to call forward Kathy Gobel. Morning, Kathy. If you could please state your name and organization.
Oh, certainly. Kathy Gogel, President of Animal Rights Hawaii. Madam Chair and members of the board, we have some grave concerns about the way DOA has handled this whole issue with the huge numbers of very, very, I would say, permanent structures that Hawaii Hauling has put on those lands. I've been out there several times, including 3 times since the deadline, and not much has happened. This is, I really believe that it is a dereliction of the Department of Agriculture not to proceed and prosecute Hawaii Hauling and the company that owns the slaughterhouse now for allowing state property to be used without any money, any lease, anything that the public should know or be aware of. They've been very loosey-goosey about this, and I'm not happy with the Department of Agriculture's actions on this. I also question the appropriateness of a letter from Miley Shimabukuro signing her name as a senator of the state. I believe that that is not appropriate. And I hope that you will take that into consideration. As to the semantics, the livestock industry and primarily the mainland company that has basically taken over everything there is using the word harvest. It's such a benign word, much better than slaughter or kill. They call it a harvest room. It's really a kill floor. And I believe that the semantics of this are important, very, very important in the way people seem to think that, oh, it's just humane slaughter. It's not all the time. So
Kathy,
I have a lot of issues with the way DOA has handled this entire situation. And I urge you to defer this. And we want some answers. I would like to see some answers. Where are the people with the slaughterhouse? Are they even here? Are they participating? I just ask you, please, as you are supposed to be representing the taxpayers and the agricultural industry, to remind yourselves that decisions like this have great impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Any further public testimony?
There are no other.
If you have, board, is it time for board questions if we have, Chair?
Any public testimony? No,
No more.
no further public testimony. So any board discussion? Now's the time. Okay, Russell.
Yeah, I guess since the lessee that apparently is not present, this question is for staff, Linda.
Excuse
I'm
me,
sure Russell, the lessee is present.
Oh, is
Bobby
he
for
present?
business.
Okay, the question I had, and whether for lessee or Linda or both, is there is indication that there is a revised PUD. But I understand the motion today is really an extension of time to submit the PUD, not necessarily a revised PUD. Would that be a fair statement?
I'm sorry, Russell, can you repeat that again?
Okay, the motion today, the staff submittal is requesting an extension of time to submit the PUD. My question was, because there's reference in your staff submittal that there has been a revised PUD submitted to the Department of Ag, and it's not part of the submittal, that the content of the PUD is not up for board approval, it's just that extension of time, is that correct?
That's correct. It's an extension
Okay.
of time that we're
Okay.
requesting.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Russell, let me be clear about something. It is the development, it has to be completed within 6 years from the commencement date of the lease in accordance with the PUD. The prior period of time, I think, was 3 years.
Right.
So there's an extension, not just for the submittal of the PUD, but also for the completion of the developments.
Okay, okay. And the next question I had was, whether in the PUD, the revised PUD, or just if you know staff or the lessee, how much acres, because this parcel is about over 100 acres, how much acres is actually being utilized or is planned to be utilized for cattle holding as compared to other uses?
Okay, excuse me, I'm gonna call Bobby Farias up to answer your questions.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Bobby Farias, Oiland and Livestock. So sorry, what was the question?
Yeah,
What
so
percentage
the
of-
parcel, the total parcel is over 100 acres. And I understand according to this staff submittal, a portion is for cattle holding, but there's a portion that is for other ag purposes or other uses. What is the acreage of cattle holding versus other uses?
Over half of it's gonna be for cattle. Part of it, a large part of it, 40 some acres, is gonna be used for growing.
Cattle
of
holding?
Cattle
Okay.
feed.
Okay, but the question again, Mr. Furious, is cattle holding area as compared to growing of feed, which is like a ag product,
Yeah, it's over half the property for holding, cattle holding.
just holding. It's about 50 acres or so. Okay. Okay, and I'm just pointing this out, Chair, because, and it's not, I don't think it, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, you know, has a position on the extension portion per se for submitting the plan. But it's just that the content of the submittal, we just thought they might want to put on the record the DLNR's understanding of this set aside of the 100 acres of intense industrial land out at Campbell Industrial Park. Going back to the history of it, I think, and I think the department tried to submit testimony. I know it was very late. I don't know if you got it, but within that, they go into the history of what this set aside was really about. And it's 100 acres of industrial land under initially DLNR's jurisdiction for, and the plan for DLNR at the time was to utilize it for industrial / renewable energy projects because it's so close to the HECO grid. There was a need expressed by the Department of Ag chair at the time for additional water allocation for the slaughterhouse, and this parcel had 100 acres worth of allocation, and so there was a request for the water to be transferred and then ultimately the land with the intent that it be held for cattle holding to support the slaughterhouse. The executive order setting aside the land for DOA specifically allowed for that, but also reserved the Department of Land and Natural Resources the right to release other lands, other portions of the lot for renewable energy projects. And so the point I think DLNR had wanted to make for the record is that although there may be other acres here that maybe that Mr. Farias would like to perhaps not necessarily use for cattle holding, but maybe for ag growing feed or other ag purposes. I just wanted, I think the department wanted to point out that it did transfer, you know, so far 10,000 or more acres over to DOA under Act 90, another 10,000 of acres over to ADC for ag purposes has gone over already to DOA, so about 20,000 acres. And today's action, but for the deferral for those 2 ag leases under Act 90, would have added thousands of acres, additional acres on the Big Island for transferred over to DOA. So I think that was a point that DLNR, I think, wanted to state for the record that there are other lands, ag lands available for ag type operations. This was a unique situation here in that these are intense or high industrial lands out at Campbell Industrial Park, transferred to DOA, not necessarily for ag, not for ag, growing ag food and stuff, but it really was to support the slaughterhouse needs and because we were one of the few left in the state of Hawaii. I think that's the point of that one. I think the department wanted to make. But I understand that the motion today or the submittal today is really an extension of time, and I don't think the department necessarily opposes that issue.
Thank you, Russell. We did receive that testimony, by the way. It was late, but we did receive it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board discussion?
Chair, I have a question for Russell.
Yes, sir.
Russell, it seems that DLNR had a question or was interested in having a renewable energy on this 110 acre parcel. Is that correct?
We had the reservation because
Right.
there was interest before
That's
it
correct.
terminated, and then there is interest now, actually.
Yeah, so that's what I gather. How much do you need for that renewable energy of that? If Bobby is saying that he needs half or, you know, for cattle holding, what could your project be done? Well, let me
And
ask you, what is your
Yeah,
take on how much you need?
We've asked that question of the entity, by the way, is URUS, and we've asked that question, and I think the answer we got was they'd like as much as they can. They'd like 90 acres or so, but if they'd also indicated whatever acres they could obtain, they would try to work that into the plan. They would probably have to reevaluate, you know, if it's only 50 acres or something, but they seem like they were open to evaluating and trying to make it work even with less acres, yeah.
So is there any other DLNR land in that area that's close to HECO that would be suitable also besides this property?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately, is under executive order to DOA, the slaughterhouse, and ADC. That's the only lands we have in that industrial park, and this 100 acres, yeah.
Okay.
So ADC and DOA are also situated right abutting or adjoining these parcels, yeah, 100 acres.
Thanks, Russell.
Any other board discussion? Diane?
Yeah, I had a couple other questions for Russell, just as it relates to DLNR. It was helpful about, what, the renewable energy development, it sounds like, yes, we could use 90% of the property, but we could also use a smaller amount. I guess, a couple questions. Does DLNR, are they allowed to do direct leases, or do they have to go out for bid
For
on these
renewable
types of
energy,
things? Yeah.
For renewable energy, they have this under 171-95, they have the right to do direct negotiation
Okay, thank you.
with renewable energy projects. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then you referenced well, we heard from David Wong about the potential for an interest in developing a slaughterhouse for hogs and other small animals. And you referenced that, there was transfer of lands, of other lands. Do you know, or maybe this is a question for DOA staff, what the land use qualifications are or zoning that might limit the establishment of slaughterhouses?
I'll try to answer based on my understanding. I think a slaughterhouse would be allowed under this zoning, I believe, because it's right on an adjacent parcel as well.
Within
and it's not on the 100
industrial.
acres, but on Mr. Farias slaughterhouse is on another parcel, state parcel, yeah. We've had just some background on these the hog farmers. There has been discussion within the departments, I think DOA as well as DLNR as well as the legislature, and there's been a commitment to set aside 5 acres or so for the hog farmers for their own slaughterhouse. Apparently the slaughtering of pigs and cattle don't necessarily mix, as was what I understand. As far as how that gets done, I think there's been various discussions. Some of this, I think most recently I've been hearing that ADC would be involved somehow and leasing the property over to the hog farmers, because the ADC might have some special powers in their statute that might ease the transition and construction of such a facility.
I was referring more to the land use restrictions, whether or not, ag lands are generally allowed to do slaughterhouses or not, because and maybe again,
maybe DOA can answer that more clearly. I was focusing on the industrial land status, and I think it is allowed there. Yeah,
it is allowed there. I understand.
I think, yeah.
So I guess that's my
Linda,
point.
do you know,
is,
Linda?
The department's testimony was, well, we've transferred a lot of lands, look someplace else, but that doesn't necessarily equate to availability.
I think maybe that's a DOA question, because they would be familiar with that.
And Russell is asking if the land use for slaughterhouse is appropriate with the lease that Bobby has.
Oh, with the feedlot, the zoning for the slaughterhouse lot and the feedlot is the same. And so I'm inclined to answer yes, it is allowed. However, I can get a definitive answer.
I think board member Lay was asking whether it's allowed on lesser than industrial, like for example, other ag lands.
On other ag,
Like Waimanalo that's been transferred and stuff.
I know we have, I don't know for sure, Diane, I'm sorry.
Okay,
If you're
thank
asking
you.
outside of,
Okay.
on agricultural 1 or 2
Okay.
lands. yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
I think there is support for having the room for the hog farmers in this 100 acres. I didn't mean to imply there wasn't.
Okay, and I saw, Randy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Myself and Jimmy Combs had an opportunity to visit the slaughterhouse about a month ago to see what it really looked like, because we've heard all kinds of stuff, and based on the testimony submitted prior by DLNR, we wanted to really take a close look at what was going on there. And I guess my description of a boneyard is a little bit different than what I saw. I don't consider what's there a boneyard, because most of the stuff that was there was usable equipment, was neat, kept in orderly fashion. However, I do agree that all of the equipment and storage facilities that are there associated with that equipment should not be there, and it should not be on that premises. And I think as stated in the write-up, they've taken steps to get those people out of there. So my question is to Bobby. It's been, I guess, a little over a month since Jim and I visited. Has anything been done as far as movement of stuff out of there, or is it still in the same condition that it was when we visited?
Yes, I was visited the site yesterday, to be able to speak to that. So yes, it continues to be cleaned. They're in the process of, again, securing a lease with, offsite locations so they can move everything off, but, the cleanup continues. It's ongoing. And the exit of that tenant.
Does that answer your question, Randy?
Yeah, Bobby, did they have found a place yet, or is it they're still looking?
I know they've identified 3 parcels. I don't know yet that they've identified a specific place. So, I guess that means they're still looking.
Okay, do you have a time frame of expecting when they would actually get out of there?
I don't have a definitive date today of their complete exit.
Okay, thanks. And then another comment, we viewed the whole property and it was in pretty good shape considering the impression I got from the prior testimony. So I think they've done a good job in cleaning up the area and making it look presentable. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Chair.
Oh, Linda?
I just wanted to add that I was out there yesterday as well. I didn't see Mr. Farias at the time, but I've been out there every month since this whole thing started, and they have removed a lot of the smaller things, and they've downsized it a bit, even from the last time when Mr. Cabral and Mr. Gomes are out there. So they are moving things off the lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. There was a hand up for N Young.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think we need to get too contentious here. I think we're worried about some of the land use issues and that kind of thing. Generally, I'm in support of extending their time period. Obviously we've been through a bunch in the last few years, and we've granted similar extensions to other folks and made considerations with loans and that kind of thing. So I see that as I see this as on par with some of the other decisions we made. I'll be in the interest of full disclosure, I don't have a financial interest, but it's Hawaii, it's a small town, so I do know some people who are involved in it. But I think all of that it can come up in the revised PUD, and we can kind of haggle about it there.
Okay, thank you. And Diane?
Thank you, Chair. So So should the board approve this time extension today? I guess it would be helpful. I think helpful for all parties to better understand the role or authority that DLNR has in its, reservation for renewable energy project on the property. So I guess I bounce that to the departments, both departments, leadership there and or AG to help us, should the PUD come back to the board for action, we need to know consequences, I think, of our actions. So does that make sense?
It does make sense, and Linda's
Thank you.
nodding her head as well. So
Thank you.
We'll,
Appreciate it.
we'll do that, Linda. Thank you. And
Appreciate you
Diane.
doing the hard work. Everybody, including the applicant.
Yeah.
Alessi.
Thank you. And any further board discussion? Seeing none. Calling for the vote. Okay, are there any objections or recusals? Hearing none. The motion is approved. Thank you. So we're moving on to item A.
Chair, I'm
Yes.
going to need to leave the meeting at this point to go to a DBED managers meeting. So I won't be present until that's over. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. On to submittal A5.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is another resubmittal. It's a two-part request. First, to terminate general lease number S9001. The lessee is Jane Kelly Lavoy. And to issue a cancellation document and disposition of the lot. And second, to rescind an approval of a farm dwelling on the lot. And this is at the Molokai Agricultural Park at Po'olewahua on the island of Molokai. Some background, general lease number S9001 was originally awarded to Jerome J. Kennedy, AKA Joe Kennedy, in 1998. The board approved an assignment of lease to Jane Lavoy, who planned to produce lilikoi and asparagus in 2019. The lessee currently is in default of lease rent balance with a balance due of $4,378 and owing delinquent real property taxes of $4,466.85. They have expired their general liability insurance coverage is expired as well. Numerous notices have been sent to the lessee demanding payment to remedy the delinquencies, including issuance of monthly lease rent invoices showing accumulating balances due and interest. Letters demanding remedy of various lease violations have been sent. All efforts to work with the lessee have been exhausted and no lease rent payments have been received from the lessees since January 2021. Excuse me. Staff deems the lessee to be in breach and default of this lease due to numerous violations of the lease. This account is uneconomical and impractical to remedy and collect, and recommends referral of the account to the office of the AG to expedite resolution of the outstanding lease rent balance due. Additionally, staff recommends rescinding the prior board approval of a farm dwelling on the premises that was granted at a meeting held on August 12, 2020. The lessee was to repair and renovate an existing county permitted farm dwelling on the premises. It was reported by the lessee's representative that over time, illegal trespassers stripped the dwelling of all its interior and exterior doors, all windows, including any frames, kitchen and bathroom facilities, plumbing, etc., and anything that could be removed from the dwelling, rendering it in an unsafe, in a safety hazard, as a safety hazard. The lessee will be required to demolish the dwelling. Recommendation is that the Board of Agriculture approve cancellation of general lease number 9001. Number 2, authorize issuance of a lease cancellation document. 3, rescind the prior board approval of the farm dwelling. Authorize, and 4, authorize staff to prepare the parcel for disposition by public notice. And 5, approve the request to refer general lease S9001 as a delinquent account to the Office of the Attorney General. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So move, Jimmy.
Jimmy, thank you. And a second?
Seconded, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Frederick. Is there any comment from the public?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Anyone, nobody here? Okay, board discussion.
Linda, I have a question for you. I assume, looking at the picture of the house and look at the vegetation on the ground, I assume all of the 25 acres looks like this, just a heavy fuel load ready for brush fire. Is that correct?
Well, the lessee was for a while actually farming a portion of it, but the majority of the parcel, yes, does look like that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Diane?
Thank you, Chair. Linda, so we're going to expect this lessee who's behind on rent, insurance, and real property tax to actually, make the time and financial resources to get the building down. I think it's kind of unreasonable, I guess. And I'm not sure, I haven't been there, and the pictures, it's only the external shell, so I can't see if there's holes in the floor or what, where they ripped out toilets and sinks and cabinets. But I guess, there's a housing shortage across the state. And I just wonder if we can't, retain the dwelling, because obviously, this party is not going to, spend more resources. Retain the dwelling and see if we can't lease it, and somebody, that be part of the new lease in terms of, renovating it or tearing it down if it's not possible. I guess just wondering if staff has spent any time thinking about that for the department.
I have seen the dwelling up close, and in my unprofessional contractor's opinion, I would hesitate to have anyone try to occupy the dwelling and expect someone to bring the dwelling back to a safe, habitable building. And that's why we're recommending, we are recommending to have the dwelling demolished or taken away.
And that includes
I don't
use as
wanna
an
put
office or anything like that.
Well,
would
I
say.
don't want to put the state, or give additional liability to the state. By taking
I understand that, but
Mhm.
state's gonna have to spend the money to tear it down. What does the division usually do in cases like this, in past cases?
Mhm. In a case like this, if we rescind the dwelling authorization, then whoever leases the lot next, it will be part of their responsibility to demolish the building. And we do, in a brand new lease, we do give a rent credit for 2 years of annual rent for any excuse me, work that's been done on the premises. So a new lessee would receive some credit for money spent, sorry.
Okay, so it's not, the expectation would be not the existing lessee to tear it down.
Well, we certainly like to make it part of the record.
Okay,
That it would be to
okay.
responsibility.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any
I
other
have
board
a question for
discussion?
Linda.
Okay,
Linda, in your thought process, how long before we can get this back into active inventory, you would think, you know, to get another leasing on property?
Okay. So we have other vacant lots right now in like one in the Waimanalo Egg Park and we still have those vacant lots at Pahoa on the Big Island. And so as soon as we can timeframe, I don't want to set a you know, specific time frame, but we were planning to put agricultural parklands parcels out to lease towards the end of this year. So if everything goes well, we'll probably be maybe into first quarter next year before we can get, you know, actual lease documents, new documents issued. And that's barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Linda. Board discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Hearing none. Motion is approved. Thank you, Linda. We're moving on to item A6.
Good morning, Roy again, Ag Resource Management Division, and I'll be presenting request for consent to assignment. General lease number S6013. Nancy Anarit and Ratsmi Upraseg, lessee, to Mobro Farms Inc. assignee. This is lot 13 in the Kahuku Agricultural Park. In 1999, general lease number S6013 was awarded to Bangsamurth Upraseg and Nancy Upraseg, husband and wife, by the Board of Agriculture. Mr. and Mrs. Upraseg developed their lot into a successful farm that produces banana, mango, coconut, dragon fruit, and bitter leaf. In 2013, Mr. Upraseg passed away. In 2015, the lease was assigned to Mrs. Upraseg and 2 of their children. Due to declining health, Mrs. Upraseg is physically unable to farm and her children are not able to maintain the farm. They request to assign general lease number 6013 to Mobro Farms Inc., owned and operated by Gabriel Monahan, pursuant to sections 415333A6B and C Hawaii Administrative Rules. Gabriel Monahan worked on vegetable farms since 1999, cultivating lettuce. From 2017 to present, Mr. Monahan owns and operates Ho'olono Inc., where he grows and processes crops and herbs to market value-added products. Mr. Monahan would like to expand his operations by growing noni, ginger, chili pepper, kava, and aloe on the subject farm lot. Mobile Farms Inc. qualifies as an agricultural corporation with at least 75% of its corporate members who qualify as bona fide farmer with more than 2 years of full-time farming experience and meets the eligibility requirements for agricultural parks pursuant to sections 41531 and 30 Hawaii Administrative Rules. The assignee has agreed to pay the assigner a consideration of $320,000 for the assignment of leasehold. The sale includes an approved farm dwelling and inventory of mature trees and plants. In accordance with paragraph 17, assignments of lease interest, etc., any net proceeds of the subject are subject to a premium percentage charge benefiting the lessor. In this case, calculations in accordance with this provision net $0 to the lessor. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture consent to the assignment of lease. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Any discussion from the public?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion? Seeing and hearing none, calling for the vote. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing no objection, the motion is approved. Thank you, Roy. Moving on to the item A7.
Good morning, Chair,
Good morning.
board members, Kirk Psyche, Ag Resources Management. You have the board report in front of you. It's that time of year again where we need you to certify the acreage assessment. This year, the acreage assessment for Honoka, Molokai, Waimanalo, and Waimea went up $2,454. Per irrigation system, and Kahuku went up $2,600, $2,676. We're recommending that you do certify the acreage assessment.
May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved, Jimmy.
Jimmy, thank you. And will there be a second?
Second,
May I ask who that was?
Randy.
Randy.
Thank you, Randy. So, anyone in the public, from the public wish to testify?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. Does anyone from the board wish to offer to testify on this? Okay. Hearing none, the motion is approved. Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Did I? Okay, and any objections from the board?
Just motions. They didn't vote. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you said.
No one said anything.
Okay. Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you. On to section B, plant industry division. We're going to be hearing item B1.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, board members. My name is Greg Takashima. I'm the acting pesticides program manager at the pesticides branch. We are here today to request to delegate to chair the authority to refer collections of pesticide violation penalties to the Department of Attorney General. Okay, so this is a summary description of the request. During the February 28th, 2023 Board of Agriculture meeting, the pesticides branches submittals for request to refer final orders, docket number 20-PE-025 and 22-PE-050, generated discussions by members of the board to delegate authority to the chair for matters related to collections of pesticide violations penalties. Hawaii revised statutes 149A-41 subsection B 4 provides as follows. In the case of inability to collect the administrative penalty or failure of any person to pay all or such portion of the administrative penalty as the board may determine, the board shall refer the matter to the Attorney General, who shall recover the amount by action in the appropriate court. Delegating to the chair the authority to perform the ministerial action of referring to the Attorney General the collections of pesticide violation penalties will expedite the collection of penalties owed to the department, reduce the workload burden on the department staff, and reduce the time spent on ministerial actions by the board, which is section 149A-41 subsection B4, which requires the board to refer the matter to the Attorney General. Board approval shall still be required to reduce the collection to a portion of the administrative penalty. The pesticides branch humbly requests the board authorize and delegate the duties assigned to the board through HRS 149A-41 subsection B4 to the chairperson of the Hawaii Board of Agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the request?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Jimmy.
Second,
Okay. So
Russell.
we have Jimmy and Russ. Thank you. Any comments from the public?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion? Okay, any of? No? Ed, hi.
Thank you, Chair. Real fast. No, just, commitment to the staff for putting this forward. It's been something I think that we have discussed at the board for quite a while, is making sure that, we have the time to discuss some of the more, intense or involved matters. So, in addition to this, if there are other ministerial actions, we can recommend for delegation to the chair. That's something I'd be happy to consider.
Okay, thank you. And any other discussion from the board? Okay. So, no objection. No objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On to old business?
Sorry, don't have any.
No old business.
You want to talk about the data administrator?
Okay, yes, I do. So,
Chair, you got Randy's hand up.
oh, Randy,
Yeah, Chair, it's not really old business, but some meetings ago, months ago, actually, we discussed the issue of ag leases not allowing raising of pigs and chickens, and ARMS was supposed to go back and review that and give a report to the board, but we've never heard anything back. So I'd like to request maybe at the next meeting, ARMS give us an update of their research into that issue.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Well, so noted. On to new business.
There's no new business. No.
Okay, so we're about ready to
So there's
adjourn.
nothing else except you might want to mention it the next meeting.
Yeah, okay. So there's no further business for the board, except that I would like to mention that the date of the next meeting is July 25th, at which time I will not be on island, and I will be asking someone on the board to chair the meeting on my behalf. That would be, we'll take care of that during the interim from now till the next meeting, okay? Knowing that, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Second.
Seconded.
Second is Fred. Thank you. With that, the meeting is adjourned.
Aloha. Have a great week.
Oh, I should say thank you to Vince for tuning in. Trying to tune in, yeah, from a board from a ship.